love of Sindh, you can come. He came. But this whole organization I can't be created without two my very good friends, supporters, who gave me a lot of support, financially support, energy, Dr. Amadani and Dr. Maqbol Halepota. They are here. And of course, I'm expecting that a lot of my friends who are financially sound and who are spiritually sound, who will give me the energy, and I'm sure we will continue our efforts. And this region is very difficult. Lot of forces there. Iran is there, China is there, India is there. But we have our own asset, Sindhi Sufism and love and happiness. Pakistan has their own asset, terrorism, mullaism, fundamentalism, and AQ Khan, nuclear. These all assets they have. But we only through love can change the world, can change the region, can change the Sindh. Thank you very much. And I want to introduce my good friend, Dr. Maqbol Halepota, who's really very generous. You can't believe me how much he supported me. I cannot tell you, but he's continued supporting me, so I keep it here. And he is very good. He's also the treasurer of our another good organization, very old organization, very community organization, Sindhi Association of North America. SANA is a great organization which is doing a great job, and also the World Sindhi Institute, they have also kind of a think tank, and World Sindhi Congress, they are also doing the very great job in Europe. So I have a program that we will united overseas Sindhi diaspora, and then we will give the kind of inspiration on the ground to the Sindhi people. They will united, and then we tell the Pakistani establishment who we are. Thank you very much. I want to ask Dr. Halepota, then he can come and welcome to my friends.
Thank you very much. I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just wanted to add to what Munawar has said. I'm sure there are a lot of people here who have a lot of questions of why we are here and how all this came to being and what do we plan to do in the future. This all started because Munawar and I have been talking about it. We've talked over the phone for hours at times over the last few years that I've known Munawar. And whenever we talk, our main subject has been what is it that we could do about our common place of birth and about our people who live in Sindh and in very dire situation, and the conditions are only getting worse. And that's how we realize that in this global village that we live in, the only thing we can do to influence and actually positively make a change back in Sindh is by influencing the policies of the policymakers here in Washington. As our first speaker said, that Washington, our United States, is pouring billions of dollars in Pakistan. Our involvement in the region is getting deeper and deeper by the day. And for the last 60 years, Sindhis have tried every possible means to try to convey to the powers in Pakistan of all the injustices that are being done to Sindh, that nobody's ever heard anything that the Sindhis have had to say to the local people. So we thought the best way to do something would be to try to influence the policymakers here and educate them about what is happening, and maybe through them we can then knock some sense, in a way, in the policymakers in Islamabad. So we realized that the only way we could do it is to do something which was positive, which was active, proactive. We have a few Sindhi organizations. They've all done great work. But unfortunately, most of our Sindhi organizations in this country are limited to a social circle where people will get together and have a nice evening, or maybe a couple of evenings together. Families will get together. There will be some matchmaking. They'll find nice matches for their children, which is nothing wrong with that. That's perfect. That's what we need that. But it is time that Sindhis did something more than that. The Sindhis went a step ahead and directly tried to influence the conditions back there. I just wanted to tell you why that is essential, because there are certain factors which are overlooked in Sindh. And if you look at the problems that Sindh is facing right now, it's not just the economic, the poverty. We know Sindh is the most impoverished province in Pakistan, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, despite Sindh having the largest resources both of oil, gas, and in agriculture. Time and again, Sindhis have always ranked as the most, as the poorest of the people in Pakistan, but that's not the only problem. You add to that all the other issues, the political issue, that the fact that Sindhis have no representation in the higher echelons of the government. Pakistan, for all practical purposes, is a country which has been ruled and controlled by the military for most of the time, since its inception, and Sindhis have absolutely no representation in the military. The second most powerful institution in Pakistan is the bureaucracy, and Sindhis at the higher levels have absolutely no representation in the bureaucracy. And even in the politics, so you look at the politics, any politician who's ever spoken up against the establishment has either been jailed, and some of them jailed for life, some of them have been murdered, and there were people who have been assassinated, and it was made sure, and I know you all know who I'm talking about, that they were assassinated in broad daylight, in the eyes, in front of the international media, so that they could be made an example of. That was the famous words about a Sindhi politician who was in the past executed by a judiciary, handpicked by a military dictator, so that he could be made example of. And it's not just the economics and the politics. Socially, Sindhi culture and Sindhi language is completely being eliminated. Sindhi was a medium of instruction up to master's level in the British, before Pakistan. Today, you cannot find a school in Sindh which even in the elementary level teaches Sindhi as a secondary subject. Sindhi was the main language of business in all the government, semi-government, autonomous bodies of Pakistan. Today, there is no Sindhi in any of the government buildings. And then somebody talked about MQM. I just wanted to bring one thing that I think is overlooked, either intentionally or unintentionally. MQM stands for something called Muhajir Qawmi Movement. And when you translate into English, it literally means the immigrant nationalist movement. And when a party which calls itself the immigrant nationalist movement proves that by just that their whole existence, their ideological, political existence depends on not assimilating with the locals. So these people who are there, this is their third generation growing up in Sindh, refuse to call themselves Sindhis. They would rather be known as immigrants for posterity. They would rather condemn their future generations to live as immigrants forever instead of becoming Sindhis. And MQM is not the only ethnic party. There are other ethnic parties, any ethnic party which bases its ideology on ethnicity other than Sindhi is encouraged, while Sindhi politicians are not to be seen. So you add to that, then they're eliminating the traditional Sufi philosophy of Sindh, the mysticism. Sufism is nothing but a form of mysticism, and mysticism is a philosophy which is practiced in all religions. It is practiced in Judaism, in Christianity, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and the basic philosophy of Sufism is love for all God's creations and creatures. And that philosophy is being destroyed. Instead, what is being introduced is extremism of all kinds, and not only religion. Extremism based on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of language, just so that the Sindhis can be converted into a minority, all kinds of ethnicities, and they've opened up the floodgates for illegal immigrants, which are then being encouraged not to assimilate. There's nothing wrong with immigration as long as you have controlled immigration, which goes along with assimilation. There's no concept of assimilation. And then the worst thing that I think that everybody looks at is the ecological disaster that is befalling Sindh. If you talk about Sindh, this whole Indus Valley civilization, or the civilization of Sindh, is a 5,000-year-old civilization, which has always relied on the Indus River. Indus River is the biggest, one of the biggest rivers